seeing that we have a quorum, I would like to welcome everyone to the monthly meeting for the Simon Fairfield Public Library Trustees, Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. Feels like forever since I've been here. First, we have minutes from October. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to read through those.
Yep.
Any questions?
So this should be not September 24th, it should be October 12th, right? Minutes
from
October 22nd.
Or 22nd.
But this isn't October anymore? October 22nd. One correction needs to happen. This is my fault because in the current account status as of October 22nd, 2019, under building donations, there was open balance of $15,000, expenses of $3,000, and then current balance of $15,000. For some reason, that expense didn't carry over, so that 15,363.03 needs to be 11,401.32.
In the building donation?
It's there.
Yeah, okay, I got it right here. So, oh no, I don't. Yes, I do. 11.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other corrections?
But this is actually my report. The minutes are in the very back.
Okay.
Because I tried my best to copy and paste. Yep.
Is that also?
Yep, that everything else is good. Some of the lines didn't carry over.
But you didn't add this to this to come.
Yeah, but this one, underneath
Oh yeah,
it,
you're right. That didn't carry over.
building
either.
donations with interest, that should be 1810 in the total.
Well, I wonder how many of these didn't carry over.
Right.
And I wonder if they didn't carry over because
See,
whenever
here
I
it-
copied them into a PDF,
this
it didn't
one-
carry the formulas over.
Look,
So they might have been correct in my
this one-
director's
this one
report.
either.
Yeah. But that one did.
Yeah.
That's weird.
The
I
other
can't-
ones
I
seem
don't-
okay.
Think.
No,
Now,
the
wait a
bottom
minute,
one, the last
the bottom
one,
one, the carrot fund.
No.
That's 2734 plus 825.
I think what happened is whenever I copied and pasted from my director's report
Mm,
to send Ellie the data to make the minutes, it copied numbers without the formulas because I was copying from a table, and so it didn't carry over the math. So the math is probably right on the sheet of paper, but not on the PDF.
right. So everything else is okay, I think. Yeah, that's just. Right. Yeah, I think that's it.
With the revolving account isn't it?
No, that's not right.
Yeah,
They
a lot of
didn't
them
carry either.
are not
I
carried.
think
in.
they'll have to
Oh,
be
yeah,
redone.
that's way off.
Building donations with interest didn't carry over the income. Loan historical books carried over.
It's funny how some of them did and some of them
Donations.
didn't. Oh, well, you know what no, that one's right.
In the character fund.
Revolving account. Revolving account carried over, but it didn't carry over right because
Yeah.
1617 plus 309 is not 1693.
Right.
Yeah, the formulas must have gotten screwed up whenever I copied Ellie.
And I wasn't checking, I was just thankful I didn't have to rewrite all of this stuff, so I.
Oh, you know what? You copied from the hypertext in the email, didn't you?
Yes, because I couldn't open the other one. It just
Because I sent
wouldn't.
it as a PDF, which you couldn't copy, and then I
Yeah.
sent it as the Open Office ODT,
Yeah.
which you also couldn't copy. So
Right.
finally I gave up and I just pasted it into
Yeah.
an email.
And I was happy,
And it was
Yeah.
there, but the numbers, the formulas didn't go.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can send like a blanket fix if,
Okay, and then I'll just add that
and then
to,
Yeah,
just
just add that
replace
to-
this with that. and-
Right. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Sorry, that's weird.
Here we're looking at it going, oh, that's fine. It's numbers, right? Okay. Is that it? Are there any other corrections, questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the adjustments as discussed to the numbers.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in-
Should I not second it, because I wrote them?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't know, I guess I'll abstain, seeing as I wasn't here. But that really doesn't count, never mind. I can approve that. Okay, now that I'm totally confused. All right, so next we have financial report.
Financial report.
Is here, right?
Yep, first page, the formulas are actually working here, so you won't see 3 plus 5 equals 3. First, I want to thank a personal friend, Eric Peterson. He donated $50 to our interest-bearing building donation account. As far as our town appropriations on top, we're still precisely where we would expect to be for the fiscal year in terms of percentage spent versus how much time has passed. No major changes in the rest of the accounts other than interest has been calculated. So we've earned $3.45 in the building donations with interest account so far this year. In the RS Douglas, that has generated $58.98, and the trust fund has generated $9.61. So not too shabby. Below.
How come the library, the building donation is only $3.45? And it's more than what's in the trust fund? And that gets $9.61.
I have no idea.
Well, could you ask why there is such a low amount in there? It sounds like it's in my savings account or something like that, earning less than 1%.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure. I'm seeing the opposite. I'm not looking at the same thing.
No, well, $150 from that building donations with interest account was donated, so only $3.45 was interest.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of was that
I was
all that
gonna
money
say,
wasn't there at the
the
beginning of the
interest
year
looks
because you
awesome.
donated some after the fiscal year turnover.
Because the RS Douglas expendable did they earn $58.98? That's not very much money. Oh, it's in the 10,000. That's right.
Yeah, the $10,000 earned that.
Okay.
And then below that, you can see the expenses by line item. Everything from general accounts and special accounts.
What was the, under repairs and maintenance, was that 3,908
Paint, mostly paint. The painting project.
for the windows?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that was 3,500. Maybe it was 3,000, and then the rest has gone to replacing lights and emergency lights, and
Mhm.
we did. I think there was another light fixture we had to fix earlier in the year too. And that's
Okay,
that's
are
all
we
finances.
good with that? Move on to the director's report.
So what's the bottom line, the last one in your expense by line item
The totals.
totals? So does 3908 and 300 and 668 and 52 add up to 4930?
I think so.
Okay.
I can
Yeah,
double
well,
check.
that's two, yeah, all right. Okay, so about $1,000. Okay. So that's two.
Yes, yes it has.
Okay, thank you.
So circulation numbers look good.
Are you on director's report now?
Yeah, I think I didn't know that.
Yep, circulation numbers are good. Increase in books, a big increase in books, which I think actually an increase in everything except video, other physical media, which is like, you know, ukuleles, museum passes, that kind of stuff, and PC/Wi-Fi clients. But yeah, total use of the library, 3,977 in October 2018. In October 2019, 4,237. I did forget to clear the door counters on November 1st, so I don't know what the door count for the month of October was, but at the end of November, I'll just total it and split it between the 2 months. It won't be perfectly accurate, and we'll lose some of that, you know, Oktoberfest oomph,
But it'll make November look good.
it'll make November look better. And it's only the annual stats that really matter anyway.
Right.
We hosted 31 programs with a total attendance of 305. That's a higher number than usual because we had the teen movie days going on Mondays now. So now the number of programs we host in the month are usually in the 30s instead of the 20s. Another news this month, I updated the website significantly. I removed a lot of the header images, which, while pretty, were slowing down the loading times, especially on mobile devices. There's an agenda-style calendar on the front page now, and every page in service is accessible through the menu drop-down, which is nice, especially if you're on your phone, because that's the first thing you see is the little icon, and then you can scroll through and go to CWRs or wherever. Along with language updates and general cleanup, I altered the accessibility and renovation page to try to make it more of a call to action, which we can talk about later, and updated the policies and procedures. So like the new building and facilities policies and procedures are accurate on there now instead of being what they were before. We have integrated mysteries back into general fiction, and we're updating all the spine labels. The reason is that, you know, mystery seems to be kind of a dying format. Used to people would come into the libraries looking for the newest mystery, but all of their favorite mystery writers are now writing thrillers or mainstreams because they're like jumping ship on the genre, and everyone's trying to make their work as mainstream as possible because that's the way they can get more money. So like your traditional writers that everyone thinks of as mystery writers that are still popular right now, like James Patterson, I mean, his books are just borderline. They're not, they don't really fit the genre anymore. And so instead of trying to catalog everything that comes in, you know, agonizing over, you know, where do I put this? Do I split this author up into multiple places? And God forbid it's a Nora Roberts book, you know, where the heck do you put it now? Does it go in mainstream fiction? Is it a romance? Is it a science
Yeah,
fiction?
so how do you
There's no way to know.
How do you distinguish between mystery and thriller? How do you distinguish between mystery and thriller?
Thrillers we tend to put in general fiction because they're like the mysteries are like, you know, we're trying to solve this, who did it?
Yeah.
And with the thrillers, it's usually more just about being scared.
Be more psychological or
It's more
something?
sometimes psychological, sometimes, you know, like horror, you know, it's just like the thrill of it instead of the mystery of it. You know.
So you have to read the book before you can decide.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and we don't read every book that we get.
I thought that's what you guys did all day.
I will hurt you. I will hurt you. So anyway, it's become too blurred to justify the separation between the two. We're continuing to keep science fiction and fantasy out because those definitely have their
Yes.
genre writers, and people come in and, you know, you either like science fiction and fantasy or you're really turned off by it for some reason,
Yeah,
it seems like.
I hate
I just don't get it. Like, I don't want to read it if it's not. It's
So-
just, I don't want to read about everyday life.
So you're saying a thriller is a mainstream fiction?
Mm-hmm. More or less. King,
Well,
Koontz.
the spy stuff too. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
the Flynn, whatever his first name is, and the other guy, that Silva. They write.
Dan
De Silva.
Silva. Dan
Yeah,
Silva.
yeah. I don't know what you would
I haven't read
classify.
them,
Oh, they're good. They're very
Yeah?
good.
Are
yeah.
they?
Yeah, both of them are.
And no one goes looking for the girl and the dragon tattoo in the mystery section, even though technically you could call it a mystery.
Right.
But it's a mainstream book, and that's just how people conceptualize it. So. So this is giving a lot of this is giving Gail and Deb a great deal of indication, since I'm the one who split the mysteries out whenever I first became the director.
I thought I remembered something about that.
But we're undoing what we did, and I didn't know everyone was going to jump ship on the genre at the same time. It's been
So no wonder I can't
Fun.
find any mysteries to read.
We did an audit of Juvenile Fiction while we were reading Juvenile Fiction, and we were looking for holes where volumes are missing in series, because a lot of Juvenile Fiction is series.
books, yeah.
Sometimes there's 6 books in the series, sometimes there's 50, sometimes there's 175, like, the Hardy Boys and the Babysitter's Club. They just keep going and going and going. So we had to ask ourselves, anytime we encountered a series that had holes, do we fill the holes, or do we chuck the series, or do we just keep what we have? We did decide to chuck some series that were never very popular, that we happened to get one book out of just because maybe it came up on a publishing trade journal at some point and it was highly reviewed, so you bought this book, but the rest of the series was crud, so it never caught on. Or they've gone missing, or they've been lost and paid for. But we, after deciding what to keep, what we wanted to get rid of, and we usually kept the first volume of a lot of things, because that way, if someone comes in and they're looking for something to read, they can pick up the first volume, and if they like it, we can always order the rest. But to fill in the holes, we need to purchase 121 titles, which cost $1,102.57. And I wanted to seek the approval of the board to use the RS Expendable Trust for this expense, since it's earmarked for children's books. And this is kind of not part of our usual materials expenditures. So I don't know if y'all want to...
So does that keep pretty much all the series going, or did you, you're like, these aren't circulating, I'm not gonna go forward with
Yeah,
this?
we probably got rid of about 1/4 of the series, and keeping 3/4.
Okay.
And we had to make some hard decisions. Because, there's some series that were just, we can't catch up with. I could probably spend $1,000 just catching up on the Warriors books, because that lady keeps writing about cats.
And what's wrong with writing about cats?
It's great until, whenever you have a paper like this that you've printed out a report with a teeny tiny grid, and 5 pages of it is Warriors.
Oh my gosh.
Warriors this, Warriors that, Warriors the other. And they're great books, but, we had to decide, we're going to keep this core set and that core set. We're not going to try to fill in the whole thing, because it would take up a lot of the shelf space.
Sounds good to me.
And that account currently has
$3,237.83.
needs.
I don't have a problem with that. Any members? Doesn't sound very controversial.
Well, it's not operational money, and so
Yeah.
I need to come to you guys,
Right.
and I'm assuming you should vote.
Yes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the 121 titles out of the R.S. Douglas Expendable Trust.
So moved.
Seconded?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there you go. Fill those holes.
Yay! And I just realized we've never bought books from this account before, so I'm going to have to make a new book plate.
That's fine.
Only other thing I have for my director's report is I've been trying for a long time to get a statistic that I haven't been able to. And I finally worked out a way to parse it. I've been in communication with the Overdrive representative for CWMARS and our surrounding consortiums. And so basically, I've been tracking how many ebooks Douglas patrons check out. And that's what you see in this, digital loans report every month. So in 2019, we circulated 699 digital loans. 9 of those were Canopy videos. So 690 of them were Overdrive books, ebooks or e-audiobooks. And where those books came from, I'm able to see. 262 came from Advantage titles that we purchased ourselves. 66 came from Advantage titles bought and shared by other libraries, and the remaining 362 came from the consortial collection. What I haven't been able to track until now is how much our Advantage titles that we have paid for are getting used by the rest of the consortium, which I think is really important because, how much we track, our book usage, it goes into, our net lender, net borrower status. It basically shows, are we contributing to the network or are we parasitizing the network? And in October, our Advantage titles circulated 2,045 times.
That's good.
That is a lot. That's coming close to what our physical collection circulated in total. 262 of those were borrowed from our patrons, which means 1,783 digital loans were borrowed by other libraries from our Advantage collection. And again, I want to iterate, I don't think that this is a bad idea, because I don't think that we're throwing Douglas taxpayer money to the rest of the towns, because we still get first dibs on these titles for forever. And I have it set to where whenever we buy an Advantage title, it doesn't kick to the consortium until after it has been available for 2 weeks. So like a Douglas patron has to not check it out for 2 weeks. It's available there, and then it gets to the consortium. And then if a Douglas patron places it on hold, it doesn't matter if there's only 10 copies in the consortium and 190 people have it on hold, a Douglas patron will get it next, because we have that copy.
So you have a priority.
We always have priority on title that we bought. But 1,783 digital loans to other libraries is huge.
That is.
And I really am going to push for this to be factored into net lender borrower statistics, and I'm going to start retroactively factoring it into the total circs of our materials. Because it is a circ of our material. It's something that we
Right.
paid for, that we curated, that's being
Right.
borrowed by a patron somewhere else. And, that should count. That should count for ARIS. That should count for state funding. And I want to shed more light on this because I think that it's going to illuminate that a lot of the libraries aren't really pulling their weight when it comes to Overdrive. They consider it, well, the consortium takes care of it. We don't have to augment it at all. But, everyone should be, doing their fair share. It's ridiculous that the consortial average wait time for an ebook is 40 days.
It's crazy.
If a patron waited 40 days for anything on our shelf that they placed a hold on, then, critical failure, red alert, but,
Right.
it's okay for them to wait
Right.
40 days
Yeah.
for things digital. It makes no sense to me. And, I know that a lot of directors aren't getting on with it just because they don't understand it. And that's not an excuse.
You said
Anyway,
it's
that's my
included-
little soapbox.
Includes audiobooks too, did I hear
Mhm.
say, I hear you say that?
Ebooks and e-audiobooks. Anything borrowed in Overdrive.
That's pretty good. All right, are we good with the director's report? So now we move on to building projects. And I think we should hear from the building subcommittee.
Right, so it took us a long time just to come to a subcommittee meeting, which we just had at 5 o'clock tonight. Kate and I went to the building facility committee, what am I saying, something that.
Construction committee.
Construction committee, I think that was after the last meeting, just to let,
Right,
yeah, to let them know that we were wanting to form this subcommittee and that, we're kind of coming I don't know, kind of like with the blank slate, we just want their advice, we want to meet independently, but we're not exactly meeting loosey-goosey. We still have to record it and post the agenda and all that stuff, but we met with Mike
Fitzpatrick.
I keep saying it wrong. Okay, Mike Fitzpatrick and Bill Cundiff and Justin, Kate and I. And I don't know, who wants to summarize it better than I am? What do we come to the conclusion of that we can move forward? Well, first of all, we wanted to, the building facility construction committee, you know, thought that it was a good idea after a lot of back and forth of understanding what was our goal. But they really want us to make sure that we're utilizing whatever we have. These are the old plans from before that I have. So can we use any of what was done before? Is there any way we can, you know, not let this happen again, where we're making plans and they're not coming to fruition and, you know, getting to the finish line? So, there were kind of two stipulations. One, we look at the old plans and see if we can use them, and two, we have a vote between us to make sure that all of us are in agreement to move ahead with the subcommittee and try to do this accessibility project. So I felt like we're all, I shouldn't put words in your mouth, but I felt like we're all on the same page. We just weren't 100%
Right,
sure we had the vote.
Yeah, you should do a vote that's
Okay, so
recorded.
first is, the question is, all in favor of creating a trustees and building facilities committee subcommittee?
Trustees and
Building
BFCC subcommittee.
So we want to vote to establish that, if people are in favor or not in favor.
Can we give it a cuter name?
I know, we're just the subcommittee, probably the only subcommittee in town at the moment.
I wouldn't bet on that.
No?
There's town that has more committees than there's a lot of committees.
Yeah.
Same people, but a lot of
Mhm.
committees.
Yeah. Combine some of them. Like we are.
Library Accessibility Renovation Committee?
Well, it's
Sub-
a subcommittee of the
It's
trustees.
of two existing
And, yeah,
committees,
so I think
guess.
that's important to point out that neither has a quorum.
Right,
of their
exactly,
members, and that's-
exactly. We're not looking, right,
The
we're not looking
joint
for the quorum.
BFCC Simon Fairfield Public Library Trustee
What's the acronym for
Liaison
Simon
Subcommittee.
Fairfield? It's Simon
SFPL.
SFPL/BFCC subcommittee.
Wow.
Talk about alphabet soup.
Yes, so the vote that we want to have first is, are we all in favor of this SFPL/BFCC subcommittee?
I'll second your motion.
Okay. All those in favor of forming the subcommittee? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, put your hand down.
Okay, and so this is what we learned from the meeting just now. There's three main things that we need to identify what the scope is. And the way that Justin has it, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but with some of the call for funding, and on the website is an accessible entrance, code compliant parking that goes to that entrance, an elevator to both floors, an accessible public restroom or restrooms. I think we get away with one. So we looked at these plans.
What was the third thing? Accessible entrance, code compliance, and
Elevator? Is that
Like
what
an
you did?
accessible entrance, code compliant parking.
parking.
Yeah, it has to be paved. the parking.
I'm waiting for that. I'm not convinced that that's needed.
Right.
We
That's an
verified
interesting
with the
question.
Massachusetts Office on Disabilities, and they,
The whole parking lot has to be.
the whole parking lot does not have to be paved, but a parking spot that can accommodate a handicapped vehicle and a van.
Right,
has
so
to be paved.
that's fine. You
Yeah.
know, that's all that I was asking for, and I think that's good.
Yeah, that's fine.
The BFCC part of our subcommittee suggested that that was not a good way to do things, because they felt like long-term, it could be with snow removal and that sort of thing, it could become problematic with gravel going into the paved area. Was there something else that they said?
They said it's an economical thing to do, but it's not a practical thing to do. That's
So
what they
basically,
said.
it would not save money. in
Over the
long term.
course of the lifespan of, like, into the future, having half paved and then crushed asphalt all around it would be, it would lead to issues.
Would it last my lifetime?
I don't know.
Then I don't care.
That depends on how long.
You know,
If it's
I-
good for 20 years, it's fine,
fine,
right?
How much
exactly.
bacon do you eat?
what, bacon, tons. A lot of bacon. Cheese dreams are well, they were up until the last tomato guy.
And they had a lot of that going on. You know, like you want to do what's economical, or do you want to do what's practical? Because what's economical isn't always practical. Because the
And
economical thing to
maintenance
do
has to come
too
into it.
was, just the cheapest way to build an appendix onto the side of the library is, just clapboard wood. But then that's going to lead to maintenance costs. So is it practical? Because they suggested going with something that's more, requires less maintenance and will last longer. It was interesting, I thought, and I feel like I'm talking. I don't know if y'all should be talking and not me.
No, I
Um,
think so.
It was interesting because Bill was there to give the perspective of the town engineer, and but Mike Fitzpatrick was there to give the perspective of a builder. Saying, like, this is how I would approach this project. This is what I would look at. First you need, to know your scope. What do you want? What do you want your deliverables to be? And I think that we hammered that out well with, we want restroom, parking, we want the elevator and accessible entrance.
Yeah.
Those are the four things
Right.
those are the
That's
four
not bad.
big things. That's the scope. And what he kept on saying was, don't try to find a number and work backward from that, because then you're going to cut corners and end up with something that's not necessarily tenable, because what happens when you get to zero? The rest of your project is dead. He said start with what you want and then work forward from there, and the cost will be what it is. And it was interesting. I kept on trying to come back and saying,
It makes sense.
you want to know the cost, though, because those are the
Right.
three things
Well,
the
Yes,
bill
yeah,
said.
well, that's it.
Like the holy trinity that we have to deliver to Bill before he can do an RFP is scope, funding, and timeline.
Scheduling.
And, the timeline kind of becomes dependent on your funding, because,
Absolutely.
and then, also your funding can be dependent on your timeline, and your scope is dependent on like all those three things, you're supposed to have
Right.
figured out before you do an RFP, because with an RFP, you're saying, I want this designed to this specifications, and I want it ready to build then. Whereas, we can't, the funding is the biggest thing.
So what does the BFCC want us to come back with? What's the next step?
So there's two next steps in that. We'll have to talk about which is first. So they need to know that there's funding for an architect, which could be up to $50,000.
And where did that number come from?
Because
They're estimating it at 10% of the total cost of the project, which they're estimating is going to be around $500,000 based on square footage, and looking at the
Some old
estimates
proposals.
that Charlie Van
Voorhees.
Hoores put together for us in 2017, whenever we applied for that grant round, because he estimated out the 2 parking spots paved and the putting in a little entrance and an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Who
And
is this? Who's he?
that was Charlie
Yeah.
Van Hoores whenever we
Yeah.
sort of revamped the plans to apply for the Massachusetts Office on Disabilities grant.
Okay.
That was 2017.
And was that was that for 500,000? Is that what you're basing?
No, that was 300 and, I think the top end of that was around $380,000.
I started writing it up and it was like 176, but then something else added on.
But he
and it
had
was
a
like
low and a high
80,000.
number. And then at
Yeah.
the end, as an addendum, he had on what it would cost to put in a lift.
Oh.
And that's where like the higher number came from. And I actually, that's the number that I have on the website, because, you know, that's the cheapest
Yeah,
plan
that's probably good
technically
to
we
share
have
around.
available to us.
Or read it out loud, Kate, or
Okay,
And
so
it
the-
was 2 seconds.
So when you're
So
saying a
this
lift, you
plus
mean
the
like a
lift.
chair lift?
That was like a
This is
cargo
range.
lift on the inside, a Luna
The
lift is
elevator.
what they call it.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, that didn't involve adding anything to the building. That was just,
Cut a hole in
From inside?
yeah, that was cutting a hole in the floor on the inside and adding a lift between where children's picture books are now and the room downstairs. And
So it's not exactly apples to apples, but it's like somewhere to start with.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
but
not
you're
gonna
losing
do
all
that.
Right,
space
we're not-
then.
We're not gonna do a lift,
We're
Yeah,
gonna
we're
do
doing
an
a lift, yeah.
elevator.
not inside.
Not inside.
Yeah, you lose all that space.
We're not gonna lose all that space.
Right,
No, this,
right,
we were
right.
just looking at this for, you know, the cost
yeah, the
estimate.
$310,000 was kind of a mid-road estimate for that entire
Okay.
project.
And then they were like, add 20%.
So if we're doing all that, but we're doing it on the outside of the building, adding on a structure, Mike said, you know, with pretty good confidence that we're looking at least $500,000.
Probably
to do
close to
that.
that.
And there is a cutoff number that Bill gave us.
Which we're well above.
What do we call it? So, but I forget what it's called, but, if the construction,
Triggers.
It's a
Like
lot of,
tri-
a lot of
triggers.
triggers.
yeah, this is a recording.
Basically, there was an amount, if the cost estimate was above, I think it was
300,
300.
it's, I wrote down, it's
Yeah.
$300,000, and then the design fee is above 30,000, because again, that's your
Right.
ballpark, 10% of your construction costs.
Then it has
Then
to go out.
it triggers to the bid, even the design selection process being the architect and all.
So if we want to move forward, we have to get the scope together, then we have to put it out to bid, then go through the interview process where we interview architects with the BFCC, select one, and then work with them. And, you know,
And meet
that's
with
going to
the-
be
yeah,
looking
the
at,
FCC.
you know, by the time that's all said and done, that's estimated to be a $50,000 expense.
Right. Bill will handle writing the
But
RFP.
don't think about the numbers. They reiterated that over and over. Don't think about the
Yeah.
numbers. We're going to fuel this with pure passion.
They'll tell us anything, right? No,
They're definitely, you know, very supportive of the project and I think
And-
happy to see something moving forward.
They want to see momentum, and you know,
Yeah.
and I honestly, you know, it came
Yeah.
away from the meeting kind of optimistically
Yeah.
charged a little bit, I guess. You know, even though it seems like it's the opposite should have been the case. But you know, I think that, well, you know, that stuff to talk about in capital campaign, not this building subcommittee. But you know, I
Yeah.
think that right now the best thing we could do is just fundraise to try to get, because you know what I don't want to do is start another project, go through a design process, use either trustee or taxpayer money on it, and end up with another one of these.
Yep,
Because this
that's
is
exactly-
$90,000 of
Very nicely drawn.
nicely drawn plans, who the architect can't work with this anymore because he's not, I mean, he's not willing to work on this project
And no
anymore.
one's
He's
gonna.
moved on.
Yeah, as you would
And
expect,
so
no one's
if-
just gonna take some other
No.
architect's plans.
Even if we were to have $2.5 million dropped in our lap tonight, which we can pray for, but you know, if that were to happen, we would still have to, like, you know,
Yeah.
go find another architect.
Mm-hmm.
right. And as you're talking, this is what, I mean, I'm sounding like, it's like, oh, well, at least we're at a corner of the table right now,
Mhm.
when someone's actually talking to some of us.
Mm-hmm.
But in the back of my head, I keep thinking about, and I'm a newbie compared to you guys, as to how long this process has been going on and how much money has been spent on architects and studies, and we keep going back to square one. We get to a certain point and then we get shut down.
Yeah.
So,
We've
like
always
gave
been
me
shut down by
these
the
from
exact
98.
same thing, funding.
right.
That's the nut we
So,
gotta crack.
well, I don't know, I think we do have to figure out what we want our goal to be. And I think if the plans that Aaron Sokrat drew, although they're not up to code, they're just concepts.
It's an idea.
Yeah, right, are good. Now, could somebody like these guys,
Dixon
yeah, Dixon Salo, come in and just do the drawing for that, and does that cost, I mean,
Exactly.
Well,
that's the same amount as a $50,000 thing? And
Right.
how much does that, how much is, you know, I guess Dixon Salo could estimate how much it would cost to execute Aaron's
Yeah.
plans.
We've, the two architects that we haven't started like formal conversations, but trying to find names. So Dixon Sallow are the ones who drew these plans that Ellie had from '98, which, you know, nothing is like quite perfect, but there's some interesting concepts in that one. They've also worked with the senior center, and Patrice recommended them. But then through your contact, Mary
Mary.
also, she's also willing to meet with us with Ed Noon. She's been very helpful on the phone, and she's like, I'm ready to meet with you whenever, but then we find out there's a lot more steps involved. But I think, you know, if we should get to the point of going to bid, we should kind of give them both the heads up that
Mhm.
they might be good sources
Definitely.
for these. I forgot I had another point there, I think, but did I interrupt something you were saying?
Well, no, it was just, that's what your committee, I think, that, you know, your BFCC and the trustee subcommittee is up to, what exactly do we want? And bring it back to us, that this is what we want, this is what it's gonna, and this is the architect that we should go with, and
Right.
Yeah.
but we need more of, let's put an addition on the library, or let's put an elevator on the library, or something. That's what we've been doing for over 20 years now.
Yeah, so I feel like we
And,
can't have the conversations with the architects at this, I don't know all the rules, and maybe I'm wrong, but like, can we just call Dixon Salo and say, you know, like have a casual conversation, or Justin,
Why not?
this is what we're thinking?
I
Of
thought
course.
someone was
Yeah.
already gonna do that, call them and say, are you interested in any kind of work for the
Exactly.
library? I
And
thought that
Mary-
happened last
Mary
week.
and Ed have been willing to, like several times, she's emailed me, do you wanna talk? And I'm like, I'm waiting for this meeting that we had finally
I
tonight.
think we just have to be upfront. We have to say, this is what we're thinking about, this is what we want it to happen. You know, the engineers in town estimate this is gonna be a $500,000 project that would have to go to bid. Can you kind of hold our hand through this process and tell us how to best proceed next? I mean, if someone's willing to work with us, we can do that. We just can't offer the project to someone without,
Right, without the process.
Without the RFP.
yep.
I think
There
we're a
is
long
a-
way from an
Yeah, yeah.
RFP. We, you know, I heard that meeting and they are adamant that we all agree on what did you take it to the trustees? Did the trustees all agree with this? They
Yes.
really want it 100% agreed on. We're a long way from,
But we
you know, I
have
mean, do you want to
start.
put the
We have to
bathroom here? Do you want to
start
put the bathroom there? Do you want it paved? Do you want it not
Yeah,
paved?
well,
All
we're
those
not
things
building
have-
experts, so that's the point, is that we need an
I think-
architect.
I
That's why y'all are on a
you need an
subcommittee with
architect,
the
yeah.
BFCC though.
Right,
I think
and
we're
my
giving the
thought,
agents- I
logically
think they're
speaking,
giving
you've
the
gotta
agents.
start somewhere, so start with the 3 or the 4 things that's what we want. We're talking about paved parking, the parking area, elevator, handicap accessible bathrooms, and, what's the 4th one then?
Entrance.
The entrance.
Accessible
That's what
entrance.
we want. And then put that together, word it in a way, this is what we want. Would you be, you know, I don't even know how to ask. Are you interested? We're looking for help. We don't know where to go next. What's the next step we take? You know, and as architectural firms, they're fully aware of, or they should be fully aware of, the whole process when you're dealing with state-funded or town-funded things of what you have to do as far as bids and things like that. But you have to start somewhere. So I definitely would start with, well, them anyhow, and I don't know, you said there were a couple other
So there's
places?
Mary Bilso and Ed Noon. Mary's like more like a project manager and Ed's an architect. And he's done municipal projects, I think including libraries. And so they're local, they were willing to meet with us. Dixon was recommended by Patrice, plus they
Yeah.
did plans 20 years ago.
And as well as Aaron.
And plus Aaron's willing to consult with us too.
Well, no, Aaron was suggesting.
Oh, did they accepted
Dixon.
Dixon Silo
yeah.
too?
Yeah.
I haven't talked to Dixon
Oh, did he?
Salo yet. I only talked to Mary so far. Just,
Do you have the Mr. Farley plans
I don't know what the Mr. Farley
before
plans are.
Van
Those are the
Voorhees?
first ones.
No,
that big old
Dixon
data.
Salo was the first ones.
Well, the first ones in
One of
that
the first ones.
Well,
file
the
list.
same, very similar plans Mr. Farley did for like $1 million, and then when Mr. Van Voorhees did it, he did the similar plans for $2 million. But my point on Mr. Farley is, he did a lot of research on where the gas lines are, where the electric lines are, all that kind of data that has already been done by him, so if you can find that,
You
Bill
should
is
have it, I
probably
think.
gonna come up with what's running under there, what lines are there, and Mr. Farley knows, so it'll be in some plans.
All that stuff is in here too, and in the because there's this plan and then there's a huge report that goes with this plan. And that's why the BFCC is so adamant that we try to salvage what we can from these, because there's so much data here.
Yeah.
And so, like.
But
But
I
it
think
didn't seem
Mr.
like
Van
that was
Voorhees
possible,
may have
right?
relied on Mr. Farley's data.
I don't even know where to start with the Farley stuff, to tell you the truth.
Well,
I
if the
don't-
information's
Well,
in
everything
here,
ends up kind of being similar on
Right.
there, because
Well, there's-
we want the
there's
same
a-
thing. you
it
know,
is what,
every-
yeah, that stuff is gonna be. no matter
Farley had two plans. One was the super duper Cadillac version that the Board of Library Commissioners were going to fund half of it. And the other one was Plan B. And that was when the town said, no, we can't afford this, this one, we don't want to do it.
who. Right.
And so we went to Plan B. So there were two plans with Farley. And the first one was crazy because it was way too big.
Right.
So,
2007.
Right, it was, Mike Fitzpatrick was, like taking these and pointing out, like, okay, basically what you're doing is you're taking this, you're moving it over here, you're turning it sideways, you're making it in a little bit, you're taking the grade down level so that you're
Changing
just having
the
switchback
material to
instead
brick.
of this and that. And so he started pointing out what it would look like to kind of like salvage this into another thing.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
that is what talking to an architect, I think, would be useful for, is saying, look, we've got this is how we want to alter it. Cross out these 2 bathrooms, don't take all of our stairs away, just move this over here, and then we don't have to move 4,000 tons of dirt. And
Yeah, so this didn't even come up in the subcommittee about starting to talk to the architects. They were more like, start to get some funding, do the RFP.
but
you know,
we
if you
don't
just
know
do
what the
Fair.
funding, we
An RFP
can't
for
go
what?
and raise
We have
funds.
to
and
get an idea.
You
We
need to
have
look
no
at the
idea
tables, you'll see
of what we're
that
doing.
kept coming
Yeah.
into that circle.
They said they would help us do more firm estimates,
mhm.
but they didn't, mention anything about talking to an architect before the RFP.
Yeah, so I'm just
That seemed like it was off limits.
trying to figure out. where
Yeah,
to
I don't
go.
think it hurts. What are they gonna do? Sorry, I can't help you?
Well, we don't wanna break
Well,
any
that
rules.
helps us if what we can do is, we're talking to an architect to help us define our scope, right?
Right.
Because
I
we
mean,
have
it
to have
makes
our
sense
scope.
to me,
Bill has to
but-
have a scope before he can do
Right,
an
right,
RFP.
right.
An architect who is willing to sit down with us and talk to us without charging us money can help us define our scope and make it more specific instead of, we want, and maybe we could put some of that specific stuff like you were talking about in the meeting. Whereas, instead of we want these 4 things, we want this and we want it there with so
Yeah.
many square feet to spare for Y. And
Exactly.
we want this graded level with that, with, switchback stairs doing wibbly wobbly, 7 squares or whatever. The engineering speaky stuff, because the more that you can bake into the scope, the more refined
Yeah.
the results we would get from an RFP would be. I think that's legal.
Hey, that sounds, I don't know. I think we
I'll
should definitely
ask.
check on it
We'll
before we
double
do
check and
anything,
see if
yeah.
that's legal.
Who can tell us if it's legal?
Bill?
What?
BFCC,
Yeah.
I did
Like,
call.
if you're asking an architect to help you with plans that then they're gonna bid on, I think we should check.
I called Rob Favini, is that his name, at the Board of Library Commissioners. He sends these trustee
Oh,
things
yeah,
all the
those
time.
emails, yes.
And a lot of it was on funding recently, so the GoFundMe question, I thought, gee, I wanted to hear what the Board of Library Commissioners have to say about GoFundMe. And so he called me today, and he was, and then when I reread your email, it said to put all our fundraising into the Friends. And I was thinking, whoa, I don't know if I want to do that. But then Rob said that because the Friends are a 501c3 organization, they're not obliged to the open, or obligated to follow the open meeting laws. And it would provide a tax benefit for, because we are 501c3,
Yeah.
to the donor, to any donors.
Right.
And I'm not, but I wasn't sure about, I mean, the GoFundMe sounded like it was more geared towards people that are younger than me, and I don't mind writing checks, but I do mind doing things online. But I can see where you need that sort of stuff. And so then he talked about PayPal and Kickstarter, but Kickstarter didn't seem like it was, that was more towards arts and stuff like that.
It's like
But
enterprising, raising capital for
A new
making a new
business,
project.
yeah.
And
yeah, so, and PayPal had the same sort of obligations as the GoFundMe, except that they took 2.2% of the percentage of stuff, and I think GoFundMe does it more than that. What did they?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, you
It's in
put
an
it in your-
email somewhere.
Yeah, it's in your.
It wasn't too far off from that, it was like 30 cents.
And
per
it was 30 cents
transaction.
per transaction.
And yeah, and that's PayPal is 30 cents, but then they also take a percentage. But I can't remember what percentage.
Yeah.
And PayPal, if it's for a nonprofit, they'll take 2.2%. If it's for a for-profit, they take 2.9%.
Okay.
And I think GoFundMe was over 3, but I might be cuckoo there. I'm not sure if it was all competitive. But he seemed to think it was better to fund, Rob from the Board of Library Commissioners felt it was better to not necessarily have the town being the keepers of the money, because you never know what's going to happen with it.
2.9% for each donation plus 30 cents per donation.
Okay, that
is
was,
what GoFundMe keeps.
okay, and so that's basically what
Similar.
PayPal does, but if you're a nonprofit,
Yeah.
then they only take 2.2, so it is a little bit better there. And it does provide with a way that people can donate online. But he didn't seem to think that either PayPal or GoFundMe would bring in all that much dough.
It won't bring in a
No.
lot. It's just a way to reach distant friends and relatives who
Yeah.
we're friends with on Facebook who would donate to our library for Christmas instead of.
Right.
Did he think it
Whatever.
was legal for a town taxpayer-supported board to do GoFundMe?
It's
That's what
perfectly
I'm
legal.
wondering.
Libraries have done it.
Really?
Well, yeah, but what, because that's what I was asking him and Maura Didi, I think her name is. At first, I said, well, is GoFundMe done by a lot of libraries? And neither of them said, oh, yes, yes. Now, some libraries have set up foundations for capital, but he was very, very specific that you've got to know how much money you're going to raise. You can't just sort of say, oh, well, raise some money, and then go to the town for more, because hasn't been successful in the past. But he wants to, he wanted to know what our expectations were.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the conversation that we went around in circles with
Yeah.
just now, because the three of us are like, well, we need to know how much we need, so
Right,
that we can
exactly.
fundraise for it, or ask the friends for it, or whatever, take it out of whatever, the town. And, they're like, well, you can't go by that way, and I understand both perspectives, but it's, yeah, it's really hard to not have any idea. of what
They
it
approach it
needs.
as engineers and builders, and other people approach it as, the people who have to pay for the engineers and the builders.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, that I always thought that the point was going to be that we would meet with one of these architects, with either just us or with someone with a building background from the BFCC to walk us through it. So,
You know, since it's most likely above 300,000, we can't do
right, so
that, presumably.
right, presuming that it's at this cutoff level, which is, Bill sent an email a while ago before we set this meeting, and it was like concerning, because it's, if you're, think your construction is more than 300,000, there's like a bid process for the design selection, and that slows everything down,
Mm.
and so.
Well, I'm going to put that on my list of things to email Bill about. Can we discuss scope
Yeah.
with architects before RFPs?
Okay.
And isn't it there, I mean, it's not just 300,000, it would be, isn't there a limit where you don't have to go out to bid on something? Is that just $10,000 or is it $50,000? Or
I don't
$30,000?
know. It used to be
Recently
$10,000
got
for like
raised.
projects, and then it was raised. I don't know if it was raised to 50 or 100,000.
Because is it a phased thing where you get the architectural drawings and then the next phase is the construction? I don't know,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that would be two separate operations.
Although I think with the 10% they were saying covered all. Because we went into it, saying that we wanted to have building-ready plans to apply for the
Mhm.
grant. So that's where we were.
Right. So that, and what type of, so are you still thinking is that what we're headed for? Because I just don't want us to go,
I don't think that it's a realistic goal to shoot for the grant round in 2020, based on conversations tonight.
Okay, that's like
Um,
September, October of 2020.
Mhm.
whatever.
So that's, a little shy of a year from now. And we would have to have, our scope, timeline, everything prepared for Bill so we could do an RFP. We'd have to get the RFPs back. We'd have to interview the architects. Then, we would have
Meet
to
with the
pick
BFCC.
an architect. All this would have to be done through BFCC meetings. And
Once
then,
they-
the architect would actually have to go to the work and then get back to us with plans. And I'm personally, I don't know, I wouldn't be comfortable committing $50,000 of funds, right now when we don't have more of a certain idea of funding the actual product once the plans are created.
And then the other thing is like where the money comes to build it, because Justin was explaining that Mass Office of Disabilities, 250,000 is the largest they do for the big project once a year. So then, explain what you're saying about the library, Board of Libraries or whatever we were.
Oh, the library, the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they'll just, we've all been there, right? They were the drivers behind the reason the original Farley plans were 4 times bigger than the library. Took up the entire lot.
Okay.
Because what they do is they project your population 30 years in the future and say that you have to build a library for that population, and it has to have so many, feet or miles of shelf space. It has to have meeting rooms to accommodate so many people. And then, this and that and the other space, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, like, by the time you meet their library construction grant requirements, then, this doesn't cut it. Like, I showed this whenever I was first hired, showed this to the building specialist with the commissioners, and he was just like, no, there's no way we would fund this. We wouldn't even
Right.
think about funding this. I'm like, well, thanks a lot. You know,
So then if we got 250 for the grant, if we got the grant, we would still need to basically match it maybe.
Yeah,
Right.
so
So
that
we would
might
have
be
to-
going before the capital committee or fundraising
and getting
private
250 for the grant is a
sources.
long shot, you know,
Yes.
at this point. If we were to apply for 250, our chances of getting the grant go way down because they fund you either at what you ask or they don't fund you at all. They won't accept a request for like 250 and say, well, we'll fund your project at 130 like the Cultural Council does.
Right.
Thank you. But they're like all or nothing. Like you ask for what you need, you get that, or you don't.
So they wouldn't give you money for just an architectural up-to-code drawing?
They may. I mean, well, I don't know. I honestly don't know if they would or not. Because they have planning and project proposals as well, or like they have planning grants and project grants. But the
Right.
planning grants seem to be specifically for helping municipalities get like their accessibility action plan put together, which we already have. Douglas has one, and the library is part of it. So I don't know if we will qualify for any planning money beyond that. And all the projects I've seen them fund have been like, actual physical, tangible things. So they want you to have,
It would
you know.
seem to me that plans would be part of the planning grant, wouldn't it?
Me too.
But that's silly. So anyhow, to just try to bring it back into scope a little bit. All right, you've got, you know what you want. We know what we want. What would your next, like right now, the next thing that you would do? What do you think?
Well, it's sort of changed after this meeting, so what we talked about leaving the last meeting was we need to figure out, could we have enough that we can fund up to 50,000 for an architect, and then get back to Bill with the scope and the schedule of the project, and he would put in the RFP and we'd go through that process. But now it sounds like we're talking a step back with figuring out if we can talk to an architect offline first.
So what exactly do we want to talk to the architect first?
Just to get a
Well,
reasonable
because right now, all
dollar.
you know is, you have a data point, it's like $50,000 for a plan. Well, maybe you can get a plan for 30,000.
Right.
And that would make the
So
whole
we were just
GoFundMe a
looking
totally
for,
different, a totally different parameter. We don't even have a starting point.
Right.
So by talking to Dixon Salo or the other people, maybe we can get some kind of ballpark for like, no, I think we could do it for 30,000 or 20, and then you can say, okay, now let's try to raise that money, because 50,000 isn't based on anything real, right? I mean,
It's
well,
lo-
it
it's
is, but it
loose.
isn't.
Yeah.
But it,
Yeah,
but it's,
right.
But it's,
I know.
It's,
I
it's
feel the
not,
frustration too. It's because we, if you watch the recording, you'll see that we were like, we need to figure out what we're asking for.
I know, it's kind of like, they just keep throwing barriers. Let's throw another barrier out there. Let's throw.
It's always the same barrier. money.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating with,
But I'm still not sure like what our besides the Mass Office on Disabilities, the GoFundMe, what else do we
PayPal.
Well,
is a-
no. What my question is what are our maybe I'm jumping ahead, Justin. Maybe you want to talk.
Capital campaign.
Like how do we raise funds? What are all our options?
Right.
Unibank funds some things, but they're not going to give us $300,000.
but you can't even start until you have a number, and we don't have a number.
Yeah.
We have a scale, though.
Yeah.
We have a scale. We can talk about that in capital campaign.
Yeah. So,
what are your next steps, just to
Yeah, that's
listen to
what
the
I-
end of
I'm not
the.
doing
Right,
anything next. Honestly, I don't know what to do.
You don't have a
Wait
meeting
till-
scheduled with
No.
Mike?
No.
That was the meeting we already had. We don't.
Oh, I thought this was ongoing. We voted a committee and you were gonna meet with
We
him.
voted a committee, but there's nothing to talk about yet. We talked about what the ideas were, but, he's not an architect.
well, Kate, you said you would look into the legality of being able to, or you were going to do that,
Justin.
Justin?
Yeah.
The
legality of-
I would say, the next steps, I'll ask, I'll poke Bill and ask, is it okay for us to consult an architect to define scope? for RFP. I'll forward you my findings, and if it's not, then we should go for it. You know, we should have one of these architects come in. We should sit around a table. We
Right.
should talk, at least, and just kind of get a better grasp on turning this into just getting a reasonable estimate for that, because that's what we lack right now. Getting a reasonable estimate for that, plus those 2 parking spots,
Is that
Plus-
Aaron?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
Aaron's plans.
Okay.
plus putting a restroom in the boiler room, and maybe throwing some carpet down.
No,
in
and
the basement.
Aaron's willing to, you know, meet with us, come to meetings, whatever, as
Mhm.
well. So I don't know what to ask of him, honestly. If you throw out
Well,
numbers, but
he's
they're
like
right
another
enough.
Mike, you know. He
Well,
he
except
can.
he's an architect.
He's an architect, but he's not a
Right.
municipal architect, so he doesn't know the RFP side and all that
Prevailing
stuff.
wage, which jumps it up significantly.
Oh my gosh, I've had so many conversations about prevailing wage today.
All right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if,
So-
if the Friends fund this, if it needs to go through prevailing wage.
That is a freaking good
That's
question.
another point.
So if we funded the whole entire thing,
Yeah,
like the 500,000?
well, it wouldn't be 500,000
No, you
because we
should-
wouldn't be
you should
paying prevailing
say-
wage, which is like double to triple the cost of,
So if
normal
we-
people
so say
doing
it was
work.
300,000, so if the Friends raised 300,000, what was your question?
do we have to pay prevailing wage? And that's because the way Rob was talking, if the Friends are doing this, then you're not obligated to follow open meeting laws, and you may not have to, because it's not a
You're a
state agency.
501c3,
It's not a state
MGLs
agency,
are
so you don't
requiring.
have to follow the prevailing wage laws either.
Interesting.
But it's a municipal building.
We're in charge of it.
Maybe you don't have to go to the BFCC.
Exactly.
But you can, you know, I mean,
I know
probably
everybody
not
wants
true.
to do everything.
as long as it's approved, people
Lovey-dovey,
can
but-
come in and volunteer things for the library. So like the reason we were able to get new shelving built was we paid for materials. Ron Rochelo donated all of his labor. So we didn't have to pay him prevailing wage. It wasn't, you know, a big deal. And we got shelves. So something like this would be very similar. If the Friends are funding someone to come do something to the library, that's like a donation from the Friends. I'm gonna poke that.
That's interesting.
Seems unlikely, but definitely worth asking.
Yeah. All right, so, in a matter of time, are we okay with this for now?
Yeah.
We're good with this? for
Yeah,
now?
thank you.
Yeah, I guess.
It's a huge job,
Yeah, and then, to try to get it done before less than a year is
yeah.
Right. Unless we can go through all the without all the loopholes. Of the
Right.
Oh, I
That
know,
was-
I know. See how many hoops. I'll have to bring in some hula hoops. Start practicing jumping through them. All right, let's move on to the hot water heater, another hot topic.
Hot topic. Or it actually was not hot for a while because it wasn't working. So the first thing that, like the hard numbers for usage, from January 3rd, 2018 to January 28th, 2019, we averaged spending $428.82 a month on oil. That accounts for the summer, like that's an average for an entire year. Since January 21st, 2019, which is around the time weatherization and hyperheat happened, we've spent an average of $70.24 per month. So
I
we're
know.
consuming about $30.
That's for hot water only.
That's just for hot water. That's
So that sounds a lot.
30.66 gallons of water per month that we're using. And that we actually haven't had a fill up since April, but just taking a measurement from the tank, you know, and looking at what we would pay if we were to get it refilled right now by the new contractor, who is Peterson, I think, Oil. That's what it would average out to.
But the town isn't using SOCIA anymore?
They're not using SOCIA. SOCIA.
So the Peterson will do the cleaning and all that? in
Nope,
addition?
SOCIA still has contract for maintenance and like repair of stuff, but they awarded like the actual oil supply contract to Peterson. Because Peterson locked in the rates at 2.42 something. Well, actually, I can do the math if I work backwards. Yeah, I think it's like $2.29. They were able to like lock a contract in with the town that's what the price would be for the entire year whenever they refill oil at any of the municipal facilities. Whereas with SOCIA, it varied. Every time would be a little bit of a different price, and we got a discount, but we talked about that. He's not happy about that. But anyway, I've done a lot of talking over the last month with Teddy, SOCIA, Matt, and Adam, and takeaways are that nobody recommends tossing out the entire boiler system. It is strongly discouraged by everyone because it's existing infrastructure that works, so why tear it up and throw it away? The number two is we don't ever want to turn the boiler off cold turkey because that causes moisture to build up on the outside of the tank, which causes water runoff, rust, oxidation. When Teddy came in to do the service, he had to repair the pump because it wasn't working. Apparently it had stopped working while I was out for my foot surgery, and the staff was using the stove to boil hot water to wash dishes and paint cups after
No, they
programs
turned
and
it off
stuff.
when I told them, no, don't fix it, because why do we need it?
It
I'd
wasn't
say it was
working
my-
because we
my-
tried to kick it back on and it wouldn't work. Every time it tried to it would sputter out a bunch of oil, make a big flame, and then
Oh,
die.
yeah,
Yeah, our furnace did that.
And it made the whole
about a month
basement
ago.
smell awesome.
yeah. You
But
don't want
apparently
to
it's
do
not a
that.
safe smell.
No, no.
But yeah, SOCIA says that you can age a brand new boiler 10 years if you don't leave it running to some degree. But he said we could turn the aquastat down to 100 degrees, which would take our oil consumption down dramatically from where it is right now, and bypass the boiler with the hot water tank. That would work. He recommends never turning it off because then whenever you turn it on, if you need it, it's not going to work. But he said that if we turned it down to 100 degrees, we would probably consume, let's see, he was saying it would run for 2 minutes, 3 times a day, and it takes, an hour of burning to burn a gallon of oil. So we wouldn't be burning, a gallon of oil a day like we are right now. It would be less. If we tried to make the current setup more efficient, it would be a big project. The basement baseboards, there's a couple things that they pointed out. Whenever they installed this boiler, instead of zoning out the basement as if it's a separate zone and putting all the right hardware on it, it was just piped directly into the boiler. So the lines that go around the baseboards in the children's programming area can't be flushed, which means they're going to steadily become more and more inefficient as they get covered with rust. And if he were ever to do a revamp of our heating system, that would need to be fixed.
Do you remember it being electric at one point? No, not remember. I thought they did.
They look like electric baseboards.
No, but yeah, and that's why I think they were for when they first put that room in, when the Carricks gave the dough for it. I thought it was electric, and then we said, this is a little ridiculous. Why don't we just hitch it into our boiler? And so that's what happened. That's what I remember anyway.
Well, it is literally hitched into the boiler, so.
Yeah, but before then it was electric.
Regarding making the boiler smaller, the boiler is actually the proper size for the way we're using the stuff. I don't understand all of what's going on right here, but like the way they calculate the square footage of the building and the type of fixture, and then they run formulas to determine how big of a boiler you need without overtaxing it. The way that we have just those straight pipes running through the main stacks, there's no way to calculate that. That is so medieval that he can't say how big of a boiler we would need for that. But based on the rest of it, the fact that there's steam radiators heating the size space they are, he said that if we wanted to make it any more efficient, we would have to tackle the entire infrastructure and switch to forced hot water.
I just don't get why I mean, you saw that from your report from last month, that there were some libraries that did not have backup. The library I worked in did not have a backup. It used to be an oil one, and then they switched to, they had a renovation, they switched it all over to electric. And then about 15 years later, they changed it again and put propane in. So, you know, none of it was backed up by anything. And it was fine.
I don't know. Everyone says that we need it now. I don't know if it's code or not, but
No, it can't be, because these other libraries that you had surveyed, some of them had no backups.
well, just it could be code and everyone was just grandfathered in as well. I don't know. Like, as soon as you have a second heat source, then you're still stuck with your first one because code was you had to have a backup all along, and I don't know. But so no more efficiency is going to get out of the system unless we switch to radiant panels, use forced hot water instead of steam. But everyone seems to be on board with the idea that bypassing the entire system with a hot water tank for the sinks is a good idea, because then we wouldn't be running nearly as much oil, and we would save more, and yay. I've been working up with a chain of command with Home Depot because, you know, to avoid more of this prevailing wage nonsense, trying to see if I can get it donated, because Home Depot, Lowe's, lots of other companies will periodically, you know, donate water heater and installation. And I've gotten up to the general manager of the store, but he didn't return my call today, and they've been silent for a few weeks. So I don't have that avenue yet. Since I've been pursuing that avenue, I haven't actually gotten a quote from anyone else regarding how much that would cost, because it's a complicated quote because it involves a licensed electrician and a plumber. So I'm really hoping we can get it donated. That would be awesome.
Do you think the electric panel is adequate to add that to it? Or do we have to, because a few years ago, we added a second electric panel for lighting and everything. Is that gonna be a
We
big-
added another one last year too for the hyperheat units.
So will that cover a water heater?
I don't know. I don't think they use a lot of juice, but that would be an electrician question. It would have to go into their quote. Because if an electrician were to quote it out for us, they would look and see, you know, what all work would be required to wire it in.
Where are you thinking of putting it?
Probably
In
next to the boiler.
Yeah.
So then
But-
when we put the restroom in there,
Yeah.
what, you put a water heater in the restroom.
Well, it would be
But it would
up-
still be in the same
it would be a
It's not
small
a,
one.
it's not a standing water heater, it's
Yeah.
something that just comes out of the ceiling?
Yeah, they said that you could, I mean, they cost more money, but you can get a small one that would serve the purpose of the library.
That wouldn't take up room in the restroom?
It would take up room in the restroom, but that's why I don't like the furnace being there either, you know, we need space. and-
Well, the furnace may go if we get a restroom in there.
Yeah,
Is that gonna be a problem? Because that's where we're saying the restroom goes.
That's why we need to talk to an architect.
Right.
There's still two options that it could stay across the hall too, but, with the bathroom.
And then if we had a water heater and the old furnace, it wouldn't be a problem. Restroom would be somewhere else.
it wouldn't be where my friends' books are.
They're not interested in your friend's books.
Well, I'm not interested in the friends raising money for all this stuff. that,
Yeah,
You know, you
I
gotta
would love
give and
to get-
take a little bit.
Yeah, believe me, I'd love to have that space too.
Well, that's a good question to chat with some architect.
Yeah, this was a
Not
part of it.
officially, just off the cuff,
I'm
like,
with you, because
you
that was the
know?
plan, like, for months now, just,
Mhm.
Mary's like, I'll talk to you, I'm like, okay, great. tomorrow."
Somebody should come and look at that boiler, an architect, look at the boiler room and say, look, I've put in a lot of handicap bathrooms and this is a great size, or this is not gonna cut it.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to do
'Cause
the
I mean-
math on the handicap bathroom.
Oh, it's just square footage, that's all they need?
Well, they need to turn in a wheelchair around in it, which takes X number of inches, though someone would know that, you know, I don't know it, but they used to know.
All right. Moving on.
do y'all want me to take any action here? Do keep trying to find a free water heater? Or Sosha said that if he could give us quotes or estimates, but he would want, to know what exactly we wanted him to do first.
So we could just not follow everybody's, the three, Matt and Adam and Ted Sosha's recommendations. Is that everybody? Because I'm one that's an advocate for getting rid of that furnace, and because of the handicapped access bathroom there, and it's because all the plumbing's right there as well,
And doesn't that also affect your radiators, right?
Yeah, I think you can probably take everything out without taking out the radiators,
Right.
although you'd be happy with
What I
them
meant is you
out.
wanted to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But you could do that when we get the money to put in the bathroom. You wouldn't have to do it now.
These awesome plans had the radiators replaced with the kind of radiant heat panels that Socia wanted, with a more energy efficient boiler. These plans
One had
redid the
propane
entire
in the ceiling. Remember, Mr. Farley put propane in
Yeah.
the ceiling?
Well, yeah, well, that's where the Sturbridge Library had it in the ceiling, because that's where the electric stuff was, and so they just dumped everything up there, except for the tank was on
So,
the, in
But
the ground.
I think, I don't know.
What do you think? You're the one who's doing all this legwork on this. It would be great if we had something donated.
I mean, if someone were to donate a hot water heater and installation, I would be tempted to take it, because push comes to shove. If we have a renovation that doesn't entail, like plumbing and all that stuff, we can get rid of it. We can move it. Hot water heaters are easy to move. The furnace, I don't know how easy a furnace is to move, but if I can't get like a free installation and a free tank, then I'm guess I would recommend just like leaving it alone for the time being,
I was gonna say
to
that.
see what comes of building projects and this
Right.
and that and the other.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We're already seeing a big savings in our oil use.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, but you've upped your electrical use, right? So,
But that's also been mitigated because they put us on the Con Edison Development Solar aggregate plan.
yeah.
So like that's why the electric bills have been so wonky, because I get a bill from National Grid and I ignore it. And then it goes to the town, and then they aggregate electric use for all the departments, and then everyone gets a discount, and then I actually pay them instead of National Grid. And that's been huge.
Huge savings.
Huge savings. Like, we're not using a whole lot more electricity than we were before. I'm still kind of waiting for the end of the fiscal year, because we've only been through like half of last winter and then the start of this one. So it won't be until, we're looking at,
January, right?
well, preparing next year's budget numbers has to be done, in February. So it won't be until like the following fiscal year when I can confidently say, all right, our electric bill is going to go down by this, and this is how it's going to even out, and we can start shoveling that money to another line item.
Everything's so complicated.
Yeah, I know.
We had all these. I was talking with Justin, I don't know, a while back about this whole thing.
They
with,
become a lot less complicated if you have a ton of money.
I know, that's the whole thing, yeah. All right, so I guess we'll just let it be for now and see what happens. Okay, attic door enlargement. First of all, I'm not sure why you're enlarging the attic door.
We have books up there.
When was the last time you crawled through it?
So the door is about this tall and this wide.
Okay.
We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 or 5,000 items up in there. And we did circulate them, like used to, because I moved them up there, when was it? It was a couple years ago. It was full of nastiness. And, we spent a day literally like chucking old paper and old books that were covered with bat poop out the attic window so that they could be carted away and incinerated. We cleaned up the space really good, and I actually started moving books up there that I didn't have room for downstairs, but I didn't want to weed. So we ended up with a lot of collections in the attic. And right now they're walk-in loan only, so someone can come to the library, say, I want this, and we can go get it for them. But I've made them non-holdable. So like, because every day one of us would be like having to crawl through the
I was
little door.
gonna say, whose job it is
and,
to crawl in there?
It was mine.
Oh.
And then, gather an armload of books to put in the delivery bin to send out. And, it seemed like it was getting a lot of, it was generating some circs, but not enough to really be worth it. Given the trouble that it was causing and the fact that, doing anything with the collections was hard. Because the library collections move around a lot, depending on, where we are in weeding and inventorying and processing and whatnot. So I was thinking maybe if we enlarged that door and made it full size, then it would be easier for staff to get up there and we could actually even use it for more, because it's kind of a nice room up there, other than the fact that you can bump your head on a little metal pole. And we use it for a
And the
lot of
bats are
storage.
gone,
I could
right?
ever since the weatherization project, it's sealed. So
Oh,
like the
okay.
attic is for all practical purposes indoors now. Like you go
Okay.
up there in the winter, it's warm. You go up there in the summer, it's cool, because it's ridiculously well insulated. But anyway, I had it priced out by Brian LaValle, who's worked with us fixing windows and the wage before, the rail before, and prevailing wage he priced out both of them. It was $72,000 in labor and $5,000 in materials. So just doing the half of the attic I want would be $6,100, which is significantly more than I was expecting, and so I don't think it's a worthwhile expense anymore.
Well, there are other carpenters, and that's a good thing to ask for donations to Koopman or lumber yards. They might give you the materials.
Mm-hmm.
The labor wage won't change though, right, because it's
Mm-mm.
prevailing wage.
Yeah,
So
the
anybody-
labor piece is the big part of it. The
Well,
other
yeah,
thing is, if I could do it with a donation, I would jump on it, the same as I would with a water heater. But I don't want to divert a donation to
Yeah.
that could otherwise go to our general building fund to give us more flexibility, if that makes sense.
Except that you
Because
have
if
to
we're about
crawl
to
through the door.
try to make a lot of money to try to make progress on our handicap renovation, I would rather put the money towards that. Because in the grand scheme of things, putting in the door is going to generate us, maybe 50, 60 circs a month. And mostly not to Douglas patrons. And, we're already supporting the network's ebooks, so they don't have to have our attic books too. Those are for us.
All right, you talked yourself right out of it.
Prevailing wage laws talked me right out of it.
All right, other.
I did pursue solar, and we are not a good candidate for solar. Solar installation being cost effective relies a whole lot on federal subsidies and incentives, which we're not eligible for as a public institution. And they just don't touch public or prevailing wage jobs. None of the solar installers do. So like, with communities, they do stuff like this aggregate project where we're benefiting from having a solar farm in Douglas, but they don't do like individual buildings. So, we could do it if we wanted to have the image of being green, but as far as cost savings, there's none to be had unless we're looking at decades.
So that's like the third project tonight. You said you're talking a lot about prevailing wage. so-
I told you I talked about prevailing wage a lot this month.
Yeah.
All right, about the Friends.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Except for what I
Busy in
reported
October.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, the PayPal and funding things not at prevailing wage.
So, moving on to, where are we? Grants. Capital campaign.
I think something, I put that under other. I think this should be the focus of the building subcommittee right now. And I think that it should be all of our focus right now. Because enough is enough. I want to just read what I wrote on the accessibility and renovation project page while I was updating the website. The first of it remains pretty generic. I'm just going to read it all. I'm going to read it all for the cameras. The Simon Fairfield Public Library has stood in downtown Douglas since 1903, providing the community a storehouse of knowledge, a forum for education, and an anchor to the literary world. For over 20 years, the trustees of the library have been engaged in an uphill struggle to obtain the funding and public support necessary to make accessibility renovations. We've been through many iterations of ideas, proposals, sketches, and plans over the years, but everything boils down to 4 key aspects. 1. An entrance to the building that is accessible. 2. Code-compliant paved parking connected to the accessible entrance. 3. An elevator to provide access to both floors. And 4. An accessible public restroom. A phased approach that spreads the cost of construction out over time isn't feasible, as none of these aspects are of any value without all of them. What path we take is dependent on how much money we have. A fully paved parking lot, accessible addition, and remodel of the interior of the building to get the maximum use possible was estimated at $2.3 million in 2015. This project is all drawn up, planned out, and ready to go if funds materialized. Paving 2 spots, putting in a bathroom, cutting a hole in the floor, and installing a Lula lift could be accomplished for $310,000 according to a plan from 2017, though this would entail losing functional space rather than gaining any. Regardless, 20 years is too long. Children with disabilities have been born, grown up, and entered their adult lives without access to their public library since proposals started bouncing around committees in 2000. Let's make this happen by removing the money barrier that has continually stymied progress. Contribute to the building fund today so that patrons who need the library the most can get into it tomorrow.
Awesome.
Wow.
2020 is the 20th anniversary of this. It was August 2000 when the initial committee was formed that started all this. Some of y'all were on the board, so y'all know how long this has been going on.
Yeah, it's been going on longer than that. but-
I know, but 20 official years,
August of 2000?
August of 2000. And
And
like those
the
plans are from
98.
98.
And then there was that woman before Dixon Salo, who,
Yeah.
Uh,
A historic woman. We had a woman
Yeah.
who was
she was gonna.
on a historic commission and came in and told on to do it all historically.
Yeah, which was,
Oh,
some,
yeah.
yeah, going up like that, starting over at the church or something.
Well,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
the historical commission has been doing these projects for 20 years too, and that would be part of the district if we ever get our act together too.
So, 20 years, I think that's a milestone that we can capitalize on.
You need a
This upcoming
giant
year.
thermometer out there.
But I still think before you go forth with this, we need
A number.
a
A
number.
number.
We can't
I
just
would
sort
love
of
to,
willy-nilly,
Well, we have a scale, kind of like, 310,000 gets us a hole in the floor.
I want them to talk to an architect or two.
And then, 2.5 million gets us the pie in the sky thing. So I've got that on the webpage. And, we've got the BFCC joint committee going to give us some momentum, and we're halfway between the passage of the override and the end of the 5-year plan for budget sustainability for the town. So if we're going to act to try to raise funds, it needs to be around this time, I think. The pain of the override is kind of a bit behind us, and the fear of what comes next is still a good ways in front of us.
And I mean, I agree with Ellie that it would be nice to have a number, because then you could add to that too, is that we're like, we need, step one is to get some plans, it's gonna cost us $47,000, whatever the number is. I think most everybody would feel more comfortable with that. We'll have to kind of add on to the subcommittee, like what can we have to have a number, we have to have something.
Well, let's get a number.
Yeah, and then, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of stepping on you here, Justin, but like, I'm not sure what all our funding options are. Maybe you're gonna talk about that a little bit more, but.
Well, I've began reaching out to contacts. One promising lead is Peter DeCaro, who owns the grow facility that's going into the Classic Envelope building on Gilboa Street.
Oh.
Also, Resonate in Worcester is eager to help, but he is not going to have a cash flow going until January, is when he's expecting. So, he told me to talk to him.
January 2020?
Yep, he told me to talk to him the middle of next year. And I've sent some letters to some other major institutions, large landholding LLCs. I created the GoFundMe and invited everyone to be on the team just to look at it and see what that would look like if we were to choose to pull the trigger on that and make it live. But, you know, in the upcoming year, I think that, you know, we need to really coalesce support. I mean, it needs to be like the Vote Yes movement was, with that level of enthusiasm and organization. See if every library can get involved with us, you know, because, you know, they advised the, you know, the campaign for Vote Yes so well that I'm sure they have insight they can offer into capital campaigns as well.
Every library, every
Mhm.
library. Yeah, I think it's really helpful.
But I mean, I think that, you know, 2020 is going to be a really good year to just try to paste this message everywhere we can, you know, through EDDM, newspaper ads, whatever it takes to get the message out there, you know. This is good cause. The money's out there. All it takes is finding a handful of the big donors who are willing to donate, and that would get us there.
I think articles would be better than ads. EDDM sounds good. Ads cost money.
But they're big.
No, but nobody really pays attention to them unless it's free giveaways or something like that, or market. Well, maybe they do. You can.
Free books.
Free books? You know?
Really?
They do have They pay my printing costs.
But this is just kind of what I've been knocking around, because I realized going through it, you know, I realized that we were how long this has been going on whenever I was helping the Lego robotics team at the middle school, because they're doing a project, and their competition this year is like removing barriers in our town, and they picked the library. So like they're like coming up with little like designs and things for like Lego on how to like do stairs and stuff. And they're actually raising money for us. I've been asked to find out how we can use around $600 to $800 to remove a barrier, so that they can present that at their competition, which happens at WPI. And I've forwarded them all of these documents, you know, in that big data dump from Bill, and gone through the history. And they're there's a research side as well as a building side, and so like
That'll keep them busy.
they've interviewed me. They're going through the primary documents. They're doing research. It's really fun to watch,
cool.
and their passion is great too.
That's great.
I mean, that's awesome. you know.
Yes.
But they're like, you know, well, what if we? And they come up with all these creative ideas. You know, what if we? You know, what about a ramp? Why don't we do a ramp? And I feel like, you know, I was kind of doing to them what I was doing to the agenda. It's like, well, we can't do that because X.
Yeah.
Well, what if we
Yeah.
do, you know,
I
the
can see why
chairlifts
so
on
many
the inside that
ramps
can like
like that.
carry people between the floors on the chairlifts? It's like, well, we can't do that because we have switchback stairs, and we don't have space, like, you know, the dimensions aren't right. It's like, well, what if we did this? And I'm just like, you know. But it's been a lot of fun talking to them and working with them on their project. But they notice us.
I was just
Right.
thinking more with the historical commission, because stuff ends up on the historical commission for many years, and that we end up with grant programs in the mailbox all the time, right? Or any of those something that are not library specific but municipal specific that we could look at in conjunction, right?
Another thing that came out of those emails from the commissioner guy was that, like, you know, almost all capital campaign donations end up coming from individuals, not grants, not companies, but individuals.
We'll have to.
You just have to find those individuals.
How do you do that? Is there a database of wealthy people?
Kind of.
Yeah?
But sometimes those wealthy people don't want to be talked to. We learned that, you know.
I'm still trying.
Good. Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, great to have like someone, like we could have a name on a wing or something.
And you know, it comes down to, you know, like I have this mental barrier between, you know, like I just hate begging people for money. But you have to cognitively reframe it because you're not begging people for money. You're offering people the opportunity to invest in, solving a huge problem for a big part of a population,
Right. Right. Yeah, you're not asking for yourself, it's for the town and blah, blah, blah.
I mean, I'm not asking for the money for me. I'm asking for the money so I don't have to carry anybody up the steps anymore.
I can't believe you did that.
That could be something that the Lego Club could purchase. That could be like a giant sling, like you have for a baby, but a giant one that you can put on your back and get a picture of you carrying somebody up the stairs.
I don't think
We don't
you'd go
want
for
those.
Is that
that.
gonna work?
Well, there was the video a long time ago I saw on YouTube of like someone in a wheelchair looking up at
That
the
was
library
Pete.
at the bottom of the
Pete
steps.
That was
Pete.
yeah.
Petro. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
They could put a chairlift on the front steps.
Yeah.
They
We'd
just
have
have
to
to
have,
make it waterproof.
Yeah, we'd have to have like a mechanism for doing it first, though. We don't have anything to mount it to.
I don't mean us, I mean the club. The Lego
Oh,
club.
the Lego Club?
I
Not,
don't
not for
mean
$600 to
us.
$800.
Yeah. Well, I think
How they get the
the
door
only
open.
ski resort I know of in New England that has a single chairlift is Mad River Glen. And I don't know if they've been sold off or what yet, but I did notice that Aaron has a Mad River Glen sticker on the back of his car. It's like, see if you can get that chairlift.
So I see here that you want to ask transfer of funds for postage.
Yes, I would like to ask for a transfer of $150 from the library donations account to postage. That way I'm not sending out solicitations with taxpayer money.
Mm-hmm. I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Something productive came out of it.
That's good, because I've already sent 23 letters. I just got really I really want to solve this,
But
I wanna
we-
solve
we-
this.
Yeah, but before you go gung-ho on sending all these letters, we still need to know more of
Scope,
a
numbers.
scope. Yes.
Yeah.
Even to get just a rough idea.
Right. Right.
Well, Bill and Mike did say Bill would sit down with us and, go through square footage and get us
Mhm.
numbers that were a little more,
Right. So we have something to work from.
yeah. I mean, but it's still an estimate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And even
But they
if you
did
got
say
it,
they would work with us further on that.
right, that's good. I would jump all over that.
Yeah, and I mean, to do the RFP, which Bill would
Yeah.
definitely.
And I think too, if
Pretty
we
much
try to
do for
keep
us.
moving and try to keep moving things forward, because I think they have listened over the years, and then, they keep saying, all right, you come to us with this, you come to us with that, but where's your momentum, where's your, so I think the more we can just, okay, we've established the subcommittee.
That's what
with
they were
the
saying
Focus, yeah,
Like you've taken it halfway across the room 2 times, but we've never taken it all the way
Yeah,
across
like
the
no
room.
one pulls it all the way through, and I can't talk from the last ones. That
right,
seems like the $2 million is a little bit of a
yeah.
barrier, but
So I think that's
Yeah.
a step in itself, and I think the more that we stay connected and kind of not nudge them, but
yeah.
say, yeah, how about, you said you'd help us.
Mhm.
That kind of thing would be great. Other here,
Grants, other grants. We've submitted grant applications to Unibank and Webster First for ebooks, trying to get more money for digital stuff. And Price Chopper is awarding us a $200 gift card that we can use to supply programs with food.
cool.
Yeah, that's great. How does the Unibank and Webster First stuff work? Does that take a while to get, or?
No, it takes less than a week.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
They have yeah.
They meet monthly, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty quick on things. This is your, I'm gonna say, yeah, that's from, the school committee meeting, right?
There's no other old business,
Okay.
new business.
No. Well, we have the director's review. Favorite activity of the year.
Well, this
I
is before the director's review.
Yeah, well, do we
Oh, I
have
mean,
to
okay.
read it out?
You don't have to read this now.
Yeah, I have to get up at 4:15.
No, I just wanted to supply y'all with this email, which you've already seen. And just sort of a brief explanation, because I asked the middle school principal to provide me with a letter outlining the Drop Everything and Read program that I could use as supporting material and applying for grants to get money for ebooks, because the high school students are using a lot. He never got back, so I emailed the superintendent. He didn't get back, so I emailed the entire school committee, Daniel and the town administrator. Then they got back to me, and I went to the school committee meeting, and I'm still kind of trying to work with Brian Delaney to try to come up with a way to, mitigate the damage that school kids are doing to our ebook budget. I mean, this is a good problem to have. It's a great problem to have, because the middle school students all have library cards. This is the second year we've done this program, so at this point we've got 100% saturation in the middle school. They are using the ebooks a lot. They're placing lots of holds, and they're requesting us to buy lots of stuff. But I mean, it's been a lot. I've spent a lot of money on stuff for school students, $4,548.16 over the last year. And, that's approaching 10% of our materials budget, and I have a lot more people to serve than just the schools. And they need to work with me, and, I have kind of put the nuclear option on the table of, if they're not going to work with me and they're going to ignore me, and we can just disable overdrive access to every young adult account in Douglas. And if they want to regain access, they can come to the public library. But at this point, they're not funding their school libraries. There's no collections there for the kids. They're relying on the public library to provide digital content to make up for that, which I'm thrilled with. I'm happy with. But the
Right.
budget can't sustain it.
Right.
And all I'm really looking for is assistance in grant writing.
I
And
think-
if they can't even offer me that,
Right.
then
But I think you made them aware of this problem, if you want to call it a problem. I don't think they were even aware of it before.
they probably weren't. No one's thinking about libraries, even though reading is the single biggest factor in positive lifetime outcomes. No one's thinking about libraries in schools. It's all about STEM. And I shared an article about how
I read that. That was interesting.
it's interesting what it's doing to public education, but that's an entirely different thing. Anyway, the story hasn't progressed further yet, but I wanted to let y'all know that I'm trying to create cross collaboration with another department, either that or we're going to board.
Who's Brian Delaney?
He is the middle school
Principal.
Principal.
So, has anyone responded yet? No.
To the email, no. After the email, Brett pulled me aside after the school committee meeting, said that they would get in touch with me. Brian Delaney called me. We had a brief conversation where he apologized and said he was busy and realized that it kind of felt like he'd left us out in the cold, and that he would be back in touch after he talked to people on his end of things. That was about a week ago, and we haven't communicated since then. But I went ahead and just applied for grants without him because. But I will use those for adult materials since I didn't have collaboration from the schools on them. Because, I mean, I hate to say that I'm not going to buy any more licenses for Juve or YA
Right.
ebooks, but, I've already spent too much on them. And we've got a lot of, we serve the entire population,
Right.
both print and digital. And, the schools are depleting our resources by not funding their own. And I know they have their own budgetary problems and their own constraints. But, if they're going to use us in this way, there needs to be, they need to help. because I could spend our entire materials budget.
And I know that there are grants, relatively small amounts, say like up to $2,000, that public schools can access pretty
Mhm.
easily, because I had looked into that in my
And it
former
wouldn't
life.
even have to be that complicated of a process.
No,
'Cause
it's
if,
not.
If they could apply for the grant, all I have to do is just send them the invoice for overdrive, and their department can pay it.
There,
You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't require a lot of.
exactly, and
It-
that would be.
red tape.
Yeah, that would help both sides. All right, well, moving on. I'm looking at your question here under other, just to skip over the director's review.
I'll just, let me just get the director's review out of stuff. I'll send everybody what you need.
The document.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, and that's then the director's review, but we should have it all done by the next meeting.
Yes, I agree.
We should have, put our input in by the next meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
Roast me.
And then how about if we put this other thing under other in lieu of the time, to be thinking about the FY21 budget? Let's add that to the agenda for next month, and we can be thinking about that.
That's all that's really here is just think about it.
Yeah. But, yeah, why not? Okay,
Okay.
are we good?
Mm-hmm.
Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.